Investors are closely following the daily debt crisis headlines from Greece as that country and the rest of Europe really tries to get its fiscal house in order. But our next guest says Europe is actually in better shape than the United States. Joe Gagnon is a former Federal Reserve senior economist, now a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economists. He joins us now from Washington. Joe, great to have you here with Matt and myself. So Europe is actually in better shape in the United States. That catches our attention. Why is that so in your view?
Well, thanks for having me here, Matt and Carol. I think what I was surprised at was that we know that aging demographics are worse in Europe than the U.S. They should have more retirement, more aging health-related problems, which I thought would mean that their long-run problems would be worse. But apparently they have taken more steps to address the other parts of the fiscal problems in the meantime. And so they're actually not in as bad a shape.
You say actually only Japan, Joe, is in worse shape than the U.S. as far as developed nations. What should we then do? I mean, I would think then you just go out and cut expenditures massively, maybe cut taxes a little to boost growth, and then hope you can make up the deficit. But you say that's not the best plan to do immediately.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's key to remember here that this is a long-run problem. It really shows up beyond 2020. So there's no need to rush, and anything we do should be carefully considered and phased in slowly. In fact, I would do nothing in the next year or two, but I would, in terms of raising revenues or cutting expenditures, but I would put in place changes to programs that will gradually take place over time, and that you can actually have a much bigger impact on the long-run problem through gradual changes that build rather than immediate cuts in spending.
Joe, that sounds all well and good, but I mean, taking a look at politics and politicians trying to come together and actually lay out a plan, they can't seem to even do it, for the next 6 months. God forbid they try and do it for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, how realistic is it that we get what you say needs to be done to really solve, it's not just a Greek debt crisis, it's not just a U.S. one, it's really a global one.
Well, it is a global debt crisis, at least among the advanced economies. It's pretty widespread. I think what I've actually, as I've been writing the book, I actually was writing the book over the past 9 months. I've actually been somewhat pleased at the way that political debate has turned, because politicians in the U.S. at least are focusing on the long-run issues. And for example, we saw when the President and Congress agreed on some budget cuts to make the 2011 budget, it turned out that almost all of those cuts weren't implemented in this year. They're things that will affect spending going forward. I think that's the kind of approach. It seems like an easy way out, but the economy is pretty weak right now, and so you don't want to kill the recovery. You want to focus on the long run.
Hey, Joe, I kind of slipped in the tax cut plug almost tongue-in-cheek there a second ago. But what do you think, or what do you find? Are we at a level where cutting taxes would boost growth? Are we already low enough where we could raise taxes? I mean, does it play an important part in your plan?
Well, so the paper really doesn't address the issue of how much should be tax increases versus how much should be spending cuts. I definitely think it should not be tax cuts. We are definitely at the part of the Laffer curve where tax increases raise revenue, so we probably need some tax increases. If not rate increases, then we need loophole cuts, but more revenue. But how much should be revenue and how much should be spending cuts? We did not take a stand. I think that's a political decision. We need some of both.
Hey, just got about less than a minute left here, Joe. Bottom line, in all your research and your writings, and you've studied this for some time here, you say the United States is not another Greece. What makes you so certain?
Well, that's actually an interesting point. Greece can't control its own interest rates. It doesn't have an independent central bank. And so if anyone wants euro assets, but they don't like the Greek government, they can buy German bonds or French bonds. It's sort of like states in the U.S. where if you don't like Louisiana or California or something, you can buy some other state, and those states might be hurt. But for the federal government, that's not an issue because the Federal Reserve will set interest rates where they need to be. So the Federal Reserve will prevent interest rates from doing what they did in Greece.
We got to leave it there. Joe, thank you so much. Joe Gagnon joining us from the Peterson Institute.